All right, hays, highs, and hellos. So I'm here at this moment to embark upon talking about some spiritual lessons and what's important about knowing about your spirituality and your spiritual lessons and what basically we need to know now to move us on a little further into some newer knowledges of some higher realms of faith. So, first thing I think about when I think about spirituality is I think about my own spiritual walk and I think about my own spiritual journey and the fact that I've been on this spiritual journey a long time. One of the things that I often found with spiritual journeys, spiritual walks, or just being saved is that many people have misconceptions about spirituality. Often people believe that spirituality is going to be an easy course or an easy road, which in fact is not the truth. Spiritual walks are extremely difficult, a lot, in particular as you get older, because you're going to be tried more and more by your faith, and you're going to be tried more and more by the circumstances that come against you. And so it's really imperative for anyone to have a strong spiritual faith. But I even think about my own personal life. It has literally, when you say make or break, it has made me be the person that I am now, who's able to bounce back from a lot of different things. And it's not always easy. I will never care to tell anybody that it's going to be easy, because sometimes it's just really not easy, but it's necessary. The thing about it is it's very necessary. So, today we're going to look at some scriptures and we're just going to delve in, and I'm just going to be spiritually guided to give you whatever message is necessary and whatever a person needs to hear in that moment. And that's super important. When I think about today being the 4th of July and how everybody is excited about the fireworks, 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 it stops and makes me think about, what fireworks ultimately make us feel. It makes us feel excited when you see these bright colors, and it makes us feel celebratory. And so the way that I can also tie in that my spirituality does the same thing, really and truly, is that many times when I'm reading the word and coming forth into some new knowledge, I often feel inspired and I feel excited, and I'm wanting to share, and I'm wanting to make sure I celebrate all the wisdoms that I've now gained from that. Now, again, everybody doesn't get that experience, but for me, myself personally, that was one of the best experiences of my life. And so I want to share it with other people. Another thing I often like to tell people when it comes down to spirituality and having a faith, people always think that's the absence of bad things in your life. Oh, you won't go through anything. You'll never experience bad things. On contrary, I'm sorry, that is not the truth. Because you have a spiritual walk, because you have a spiritual life, because you have a faith, does not mean that it's going to be the absence of bad, or that it's going to prevent you from seeing uglies in the world. No, anybody would tell you that ain't gonna happen. It's not a reason for you not to choose the faith, because you do walk through some hard endeavors. As a matter of fact, it's all the more reason to grab onto a spiritual faith. Okay. So, to each his own. Spiritual practices also help you to build. Um, you can't. There's no way you can do it alone. Anything. I mean, from the smallest to the biggest upset, there's no way you can do it alone. Often we do, because as we become adults, the first thing we tell ourselves is that we got to do everything by ourselves. Nobody's supposed to be there with us. We can't have people. That is, I'm talking about falsehoods. We live by some of the most ridiculous falsehoods. I mean, like, as I'm an adult, I'm gonna do things by myself. Now, first of all, I'm gonna raise my hand because I'm the first guilty party. I don't want to do anything with anybody else. If I have to do it, I want to do it by myself, because I can trust what I'm going to do, and I can trust that the way that I'm going to do it is the way that I trust it to be done. The problem with that is sometimes two heads are better than one, in the sense that you can come up with better and easier answers for solving things. And sometimes just having somebody else to go through something with makes things a little bit easier. But often, because of the disappointments and the hardships and everything that's just being, we don't feel like that. I'm a guilty party. I told you, I get it. I totally get it. Like, it's not always easy. I also understand too that people all choose different spiritual walks. Now, it took me a minute to understand that, because I always thought that everybody would choose the same spiritual walk that I chose, but not so. Again, a contrary belief. I just choose to tell anybody, make sure you find some kind of spiritual pathway, because it is almost inevitably the hardest thing in the world to go through life and not have something of a supernatural faith to believe in. That's just from my personal experience. So, I am choosing to, I'm a follower of the word. I've heard people use the word Christian, and I've heard people use just all these different terminologies that I do not 100% agree with, only because what the words meant and how the words were created from history's sake, it's probably not the best thing to use those words. I'm a person who earnestly believe, I'm a believer of God. I am a firm believer of God. I promise you, this man probably said, I know this girl very well and her attitude. He knows it very well. So I'm a follower of Christ. I'm a firm believer in um, the word and the Holy Scripture. I am. So it's not something I apologize for. It's something I absolutely love. And so, all right. So, just in sharing the scriptures, and whatever divine revelation that comes with them, just gonna be used. But again, remember, scripture is universal, because when you hear a scripture, the same scripture you heard, somebody else can hear it and get a completely different interpretation, because maybe the way that that scripture is being used in their life isn't the way that is being used in yours. There's no right or wrong to scripture. I'm just saying. Or maybe there is a wrong. I'm not 100% sure on that. It depends on who you're talking to and what they're coming up with. But in my personal opinion, everybody's understanding and perception of scripture is going to be a little bit different. So, the first scripture that I have here says, if God is for us, then who can be against us? This used to be one of my favorite scriptures to use or to pull out when I was going through some very trying situations in my life. And the reason that it was super important was because so often when you're going through something, you feel like the whole world is against you. You feel like the whole world is mulling you over. You feel like there's no blessed hope. I mean, you just feel hopeless. And in my particular persona or my personality, that is never a good thing. When I feel hopeless, or when I feel ganged up upon, or when I feel like I'm by myself, that is a terrible day for me. It's a terrible feeling too. And so I just think it's amazing that the Lord has, had a scripture written in that already says that if God is for you, there is no way that other people can be against you. Now, that's not to be taken on a surface level understanding that, oh, people can't be against you. That's not true. That is not true. People can and sometimes will be against you. What that says is that even though people may be against you and they may not have your best interest and they may not want to see you win, and sometimes people don't even know that they're not wanting to see you win. Some people are not wanting to see you win because of maybe some insecurities or some things that they're dealing with, that if you win, what it says is that they didn't, or they did not do what you are capable of doing. And again, that shouldn't be an issue, only because of the fact that there's enough winning in the world for everybody. But that is an issue. That is a true issue. What this scripture says is, if God is the person who deemed you purposeful and he's already placed in you what it is you're supposed to do, it does not matter what someone else feels, thinks, or tries to do against you. It's written. Your purpose field is written. The only person who can keep you from doing what you're supposed to be doing is you. And I know that's a very hard pill to swallow, because often we believe, no, people are holding me up. People are not holding you up. There are some ways that you may need to navigate through people, especially if you do come across people that you feel like are earnestly holding you up or earnestly not giving what you supposedly need. There is a way to navigate through people, because there are true hiccups. There are true people that may be, I hate to say it in 2020, this is something we shouldn't keep saying, but there are some people that may try to unfold certain things on you that will maybe prolong what it is you're supposed to be doing. But again, there's a way to navigate through that. And that's another video within itself, but I can't wait for that video. All right. So the scripture says, if God is for us, then who can be against us? Romans 8:31. And I think what's awesome about that scripture too is it makes you think about the fact that if God is for you, what more do you look to the world to give you? I mean, like, of course, we're resources and helpers of men, so we help one another with the resources that we have. But what it really ultimately says is, stop always delving into looking at whether or not somebody else is holding you up. What you end up doing is you end up slowing up the process, because you're looking over to the left, or you're looking over to the right, or you're looking behind you. Stop doing it. Focus on what it is you're supposed to be doing and do it. That's the focus. Focus and do. Focus and do. Focus and do. So that's super important. I love that scripture. I still love that scripture. Like, that's necessary. That's like really, really necessary. So that's scripture number one. The next scripture is also very important. I usually use this scripture, or I refer back or reference back to this scripture when it comes time for me to think about planning for my future and putting things into place and executing something, putting something out there. So it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." Jeremiah 29 and 11. First of all, Jeremiah was a prophet. So if you know anything about prophecy or the gift of prophecy or a prophet, these are spiritual entities used here on earth to speak those things visionarily. Um, provided from the Lord. Like, so they'll tell the Lord, or rather the Lord will tell them, vice versa, what it is that the people need to know and what is it the people need to hear and what the people need to see coming forth and all that kind of stuff. So prophets are extremely important. There are false prophets. There are false prophets. There are false prophets. Don't get it twisted. There are people who will come forth and give you a vision. But honey, let me tell you about vision. Vision is usually confirmation, okay? And if it's a vision that's for to come, meaning in the future, typically there will be more than one witness that will bring forth that message, and it still will tie into something that's already been said. My own personal experience with prophecy and prophets. Not to say that I myself am one. What I'm saying is, for the ones that I have had the pleasure of dealing with in my lifetime, nothing they've ever said wasn't confirmation for me for something that the Lord has already shown me. Um, I'm going to also tell you, too, what's amazing about prophecy. So there is a higher level of order in thinking in the spirit, just like there's higher level orders of thinking in the flesh or in the natural. Some people don't tap into those higher orders, so the first thing that makes them feel more comfortable is negating it. No, there aren't prophets. No, that's not real. I don't believe it. Just because you are not working in a higher order of thinking spiritually, you can't negate those people who are working in those areas. It's almost like saying there is not a moon just because you didn't get on the rocket ship with the astronauts to go. They brought all this artifact, they brought all these pictures back, and you're still saying, well, you know what? I just don't believe there's a moon. Okay, because you did not take on the higher order of experience to go to the moon, doesn't mean you need to negate the ones that did. My personal preference. Okay. So it says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord." Um, you have a plan. When you were born, there was a plan. When you die, there will still have been a fulfillment, hopefully, a plan, or there would have been a plan that needed to be fulfilled. Now, somewhere in between that is you living, you growing, you having birthdays, you getting older. Doesn't mean you're gonna know the plan. Let's just be honest. I'm gonna be honest first. Does not mean that you're going to actually know what the plan is. We always hope and pray that we find our higher purpose and our higher calling, but that doesn't always mean we're gonna find it. Let's just be honest. All right, but it says that the Lord declares this, but then he also says it's plans to prosper you and not to harm you. So again, hold on, hold up, wait a minute. Let me put some Mimi in it. You mean to tell me that these plans are already plans to prosper, to be more beneficial in the world, but also to benefit from the world, to have good happen? If the Lord already planned and prosper, so why some of the stuff that we are going through, why are we accepting it? I'm not saying that we're not gonna go through stuff. I'm saying, why are we accepting it or keeping it around? Like, nah, because obviously it's not supposed to be there. It's a plan for good. It's a plan to prosper you. It says it's not to harm you. So if you're in something that's harmful, get out of it. I'm sorry, get out of it. Do the work. Cry it out. Get angry. Get sad. Take some time apart, but then get out of it. It's okay. Get out of it. There's always a new horizon, whether we want to believe it or not. There's always a new horizon. So it says, not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future. So the Lord is always about hope, hope, hope for the next thing, hope, hope, hope for the next day, and a future, a bright future to look forward to. So if the Lord is looking for you to live and not die, and He's looking for you to prosper and not be in pain all the time, then that means that we need to work to always be in that particular line of duty. Nothing less, nothing less than what Christ has already pros- or prospectively speaking put us in. I mean, just stay in it, you know. All right. So then the next one says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. So we fix our eyes on not on what is seen, but on what is unseen. Since what is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. This is Second Corinthians. This is 4:18. Now hold on just a minute. I gotta say something. I gotta say something. Um, this particular scripture here is always about faith building, and it's always talking about setting your sights to know that God, he operates in a higher realm of spirit, and as a result our naked eye cannot see the things that God is constructing and putting together. It's just no way. I'm sorry, I got to be honest with you. There is no way that the things that we really need to see in the spirit we can see in a natural eye. You just can't do it. But let me tell you something super powerful about this particular scripture. It can be used in multiple places. Okay, it's multifaceted. Right? We told you scripture can be interpreted depending on what the person needs. Do you know the scripture here has also been extremely important to me when it comes down to doing new business, when it comes down to intermingling with new people, new individuals. It even became extremely prevalent in my dating life because sometimes we walk in situations with our naked eye, or even worse, sometimes we walk in situations with what we call rose colored glasses. We're tinted already into a mirrored belief about a situation. And so as a result, whatever we're seeing, we ultimately start to believe. We even may project certain things about the situation to make it favorable to what we want as a means to an end. This scripture says, fix your eyes on not what is seen, but what is not seen. Even when it comes down to situations, new contracts, business opportunities, relationships, you cannot focus yourself on a situation for just what is seen. Sometimes what a person, situation, and evidence of business is not showing you is the most important part to look at. Now, am I telling you to start putting some mental juju on yourself to start concerning yourself with things that aren't a concern? No, I am not. What I am saying is sometimes there are some underlying things that can be seen in the spiritual eye that we ignore. Often people call these red flags or warnings, okay? And there are some, they just happen to exist. Sometimes a red flag does not mean that you, at the totality of seeing them, just need to run away or, oh, I can't do this situation or this is terrible. It may just mean that right now, something about that situation may be a little bit unclear, and maybe there are some conversations that need to be had and maybe some things need to be done. But even if perceptually it's a flag for you and not the other business partner or the other person in the relationship, even it's still something worth talking about because maybe in some form it's a trigger for you or a trigger for them or a trigger of a situation that could occur. So again, I love that scripture because it says stop watching the things that you can nakedly see with your eyes. Think of the things you should see in the spirit. Okay, another central eye that's always willing to look a little bit higher up. And then it says, what is seen is temporary. Oh, honey, we know that in business, in new job opportunities, in new financial opportunities, even in new relationships, what is seen is temporary, meaning, when you first just get together and things just gel perfectly and they just go together wonderfully, and oh, I'm feeling this, and oh, I'm feeling that. And what is seen is temporary. It's that unseen stuff that is going to literally be around almost for permanence, or at least for a longevity. If it's not for permanent, because people can change, it's going to be there for longevity. And you need to know if you're able to uphold your end of the business opportunity or your end of the relationship based on what is not seen and often spoken of. So, that is one of my favorite scriptures. As I said before, it used to be my favorite scripture just when it talks about building faith, because you do need to know that faith is a thing of the substance of things hoped for, but the evidence of things not yet seen. That's faith. So when you haven't seen it, doesn't mean that it's not going to come to pass. But there are some more practical ways to look at that particular scripture. So I hope you all enjoyed. I hope these scriptures again will be more meaningful to you. Make sure you share these scriptures with someone, okay? And I will see you in the next video. Bye.